My wife demanded to open our marriage while I was on a business trip to Asia, saying she couldn't control her urges while I was away. So I cut off her access to my investment accounts and filed for divorce. I'm Michael Chen, 37, and I've been married to Emma Parker Chen, 38, for 6 years, having known her for 10. I'm a vice president at Goldman Sachs, managing Asia Pacific investments, which means I travel to Singapore, Hong Kong, and Tokyo for 2 to 3 months at a time. Yeah, it's tough, but we both knew what we were getting into when we got married. My job pays exceptionally well. I make around $850,000 with bonuses, which lets us live in a luxury penthouse in Manhattan and enjoy all the perks of New York's high society. We met through mutual friends at a rooftop party in Tribeca back in 2019. Back then, I had just finished my MBA at Stanford and was starting at Goldman while she was teaching elementary school, making about $45,000 a year. She seemed different from the typical Manhattan socialites I usually met. She was down to earth, had her own career, and didn't seem impressed by the usual Wall Street showing off I saw too often. After dating for 4 years, we got married in a beautiful ceremony at the New York Botanical Garden, blending both Western and Chinese traditions. My parents, who immigrated from Taiwan, were especially proud to see their son marrying someone who respected our cultural heritage. The early years. The first few years were amazing. She was supportive of my career, proud of my achievements, and we made the most of our time together when I was home. When I was in Asia, she kept herself busy with her yoga teaching certification and building her social media presence. Lots of lifestyle content about being a banker's wife in Manhattan. We had a system that worked. Daily FaceTime calls, luxury shopping sprees when I visited Asian fashion capitals, and she'd occasionally fly out to meet me in Singapore or Hong Kong, turning my business trips into partial vacations. I bought us a penthouse in a prestigious Upper East Side building, got her a new Tesla every 2 years, and made sure she had access to all the best things Manhattan had to offer: exclusive spa memberships, front row Fashion Week seats, the works. She always said she didn't mind the business trips because our lifestyle made it worth it, and she was proud to be married to a successful Asian American banker. We talked about having kids eventually, but agreed to wait until I could get a position with less travel, maybe moving to our New York office permanently. Life was perfect, or so I thought, until everything changed about 6 months ago. The changes begin. Emma started going out more with a new group of friends from her luxury gym in Tribeca, mostly divorced socialites and Instagram influencers. Her social media was suddenly full of pictures from exclusive rooftop parties and private clubs, places we used to go together. I didn't think much of it then. Figured she was just keeping herself busy while I was in Asia. She became obsessed with her appearance, spending thousands at Bergdorf Goodman and Saks, getting weekly treatments at the most expensive med spas in Manhattan. Again, I thought maybe she was just enjoying the lifestyle I could provide. She even hired a personal trainer who used to work with Victoria's Secret models, saying she wanted to build her Instagram following. Now looking back, all these changes were red flags I missed. The video call. We were having our regular FaceTime date. Me in my suite at the Four Seasons Singapore, her in our Upper East Side penthouse. These virtual dates were our thing. We'd both dress up, have dinner, and wine together, even though we were 9,000 miles apart. It helped keep us connected, you know? This particular night, I was sharing some exciting news about a major deal I just closed with a Japanese investment firm. Then, out of nowhere, she says, "I have something to say. Let's open our marriage." I nearly choked on my aged Bordeaux. The Singapore skyline blurred behind me as I stared at my MacBook screen, hoping to see her crack a smile. But there she was, sitting in our $50,000 designer armchair, crystal wine glass in hand, looking dead serious. I was still riding the high from my successful deal, so I tried to play it off. Okay, what's the punchline? Is this some new TikTok trend I missed? I kept trying to make her laugh, but she just got more irritated, swirling her wine with that Cartier braceleted wrist. Are we done? Can we have a serious conversation now? That's when it hit me. My wife of 6 years was actually proposing this. I set down my wine and leaned closer to the screen. What's really going on, Emma? She starts going off about how she's been thinking about this for months. According to her, even though we'd been married for 6 years, she was living the life of a single woman most of the time. She complained that it was impossible for any woman to control her urges when her husband was constantly jet-setting across Asia. She'd been dealing with my business trips for years and claimed she'd forgotten what it was like to have a constant physical presence in her life. The way she reduced our marriage to just physical needs made my stomach turn. Here I was, working 80-hour weeks, building us a life that 99% of people could only dream of, and she was acting like she was some neglected housewife. The confrontation. Look, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I understand the distance is hard. I appreciate everything you do to keep us going, but this is what a career in international finance requires. The travel isn't something I can change right now. We'd had conversations about the travel challenges before. Early in our marriage, we even discussed me taking a domestic position, but the opportunities and compensation weren't nearly as good. Plus, being Asian American, I had a unique advantage in Asian markets that had helped fast-track my career. Emma knew all this and had always seemed proud of my success, at least until now. The argument escalates. She got defensive when I tried to have a rational discussion about it. I suggested we talk about this when I was back in New York, but she insisted on settling it right then. She went off about how lonely she was, spending her birthdays at charity galas without a plus one, going to influencer events solo, maintaining her social media presence all alone. She started crying while talking about how her Instagram engagement was dropping because she couldn't post couple content. Look, I get it's tough. I miss plenty of important moments too, but what did she expect? This is literally what she signed up for when she married an investment banker. When we first got married, my parents suggested we have a child to give her a sense of purpose during my trips, but Emma wasn't ready to be a solo parent half the time, and I respected that. Hiring a nanny wasn't an issue financially, but she wanted to wait until I could be more present. Now, I'm wondering if that decision made her loneliness worse, but still, opening our marriage? That crossed every line. Are you asking for a divorce? I asked, watching her through the screen of my MacBook Pro. She dramatically wiped her tears with a Hermes handkerchief and said, "No, I love you. I could never leave you. I want to grow old with you in our Manhattan penthouse. But I'm about to turn 40, and my Instagram followers expect a certain lifestyle. I have so little time to build my influence. Half of my prime years are going by just waiting for you between your Asia trips. I don't want that. I want to live a fulfilling life and not die with regrets." Never in our relationship had she talked like this. We always had an amazing connection when I was home. Sure, we used FaceTime and stayed connected during my trips, but she never complained it wasn't enough. I could tell this conversation wasn't going anywhere good. She wasn't asking permission. She was telling me what she was going to do. The breaking point. What exactly are you proposing? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. She looked directly into the camera, her recently microbladed eyebrows perfectly arched, and said, "I want to open this marriage and meet other men. I have needs, both physical and social. My lifestyle blog needs fresh content. I'm doing this whether you like it or not." The woman I married, who promised forever in front of our families at the botanical garden, was sitting there telling me she was going to be with other guys, and I couldn't do anything about it. The ultimatum. I tried staying calm, even though I wanted to throw my laptop off the 32nd floor of the Four Seasons. So you want to sleep with other men while still being married to me? When she nodded, adjusting her Cartier love bracelet, the one I'd bought her last Christmas in Hong Kong, I asked how this would help with the loneliness she was complaining about. Would these random guys take care of you when you're sick? Would they take you to the Met Gala? Would they support your lifestyle blog? She said she didn't know if it would just be physical or if she'd date them. But whatever happened, she loved me and only me. They'd just be content creators and companions while I was in Asia. When I'm in New York, she'd be all mine, like I'm supposed to be okay with my wife having a rotating cast of co-stars for her Instagram stories. How long do you see this arrangement lasting? I asked. Until your follower count hits a certain number. Until you get verified on Instagram? She hadn't decided. I asked if she'd already cheated on me. She got defensive, saying if she wanted to cheat, she wouldn't be having this conversation over a $200 bottle of wine. She thought being honest about wanting other men was somehow better than lying about it. Some influencer logic there. I asked if I had any say in this. She said her mind was made up. If she didn't do this, she'd lose her chance at social media stardom. My head was pounding against the backdrop of Singapore's glittering skyline. I told her I needed time to think. She just ended the FaceTime call without even a goodbye. The revelation. You know what makes this whole thing more twisted? I just left New York 3 to 4 weeks ago after spending a month at home. Everything seemed perfect during my break. We went to the Maldives for a second honeymoon, all documented for her Instagram, of course. We renovated our penthouse with a famous interior designer and even talked about finally trying for a baby next year. She was all lovey-dovey the whole time, constantly talking about our future together, planning content as a power couple. The day I left for Singapore, she was crying and making all these plans for when I'd be back. We'd even started looking at private schools and discussing trust funds for our future child. I was exploring positions at our New York office to be home more. That's how serious we were about starting a family. When I asked the next day why she didn't bring any of this up while I was in New York, she said she didn't feel the need for other men when I was around. That's when it clicked. She probably met someone at her luxury gym or through those influencer friends. The timing was too convenient. Just before I left, she'd mentioned this new personal trainer who was great at Instagram Reels and had been giving her extra attention. I didn't think anything of it then, but now, the way she was pushing for this, right after I left for Asia, it felt calculated. The pattern. My colleague James went through something similar last year. His wife asked for an open marriage during his London assignment, and it turned out she was already seeing someone from her SoulCycle class. They're divorced now. I asked Emma again if this was really what she wanted, if she'd thought about what it would do to us, to our plans for a family, and our future together. She said yes without hesitating, like those weeks of planning our life together meant nothing. I decided to really push her on the details, not because I was considering it, but to understand her warped logic. I asked about logistics. Could I see other women during my Asia trips? How would we handle finances? Her response showed how selfish this whole thing was. She hadn't thought that far ahead. She just wanted someone for her content creation while I was gone, but when I'm in New York, it would be just us. She said I could have fun during business trips, but couldn't see other women in New York since she'd be there. According to her brilliant plan, we'd see how it goes, and maybe close the marriage again once she hit 100K followers. I'd had enough. The decision. Look, I said, staring at the Singapore skyline from my hotel suite. This isn't what I signed up for. I wanted a monogamous marriage, but since you've made up your mind, I won't stop you. Just remember, there will be consequences. She had the audacity to ask what I meant by that, twirling her wine glass like this was just another business negotiation. I calmly told her that first, she'd need to handle her own expenses, No more access to my investment accounts or credit cards. Second, we'd cut all communication. I don't want FaceTime calls or WhatsApp messages while she's busy with her content creation. Third, I might start seeing other women too, with no rules from her. She giggled and said she knew I'd understand. Said she was excited about this new chapter for our brand. Then she went, I know you won't go too far. How can you leave such a perfect influencer wife? And started unbuttoning her silk Hermes blouse. I shut that down fast. My conditions start now. Have fun with your content. Then I ended the call. The aftermath. That was it. I stopped caring about her social media presence entirely. She tried reaching out, but I ignored everything. She started posting these obvious date night photos at exclusive Manhattan restaurants and luxury hotel lobbies without showing the men. But come on, Instagram stories from the Mandarin Oriental Spa with 2 champagne glasses and rose petals? Not hard to figure out what's going on. Her sister texted asking if I knew what Emma was doing. I told her straight up, your sister opened our marriage without my consent because she's lonely and desperate for social media fame. Emma blew up my WhatsApp after that, but I couldn't care less. The return. My next break from Asia starts next week. Already got my sister Sarah looking for a luxury apartment in Tribeca, far from our Upper East Side penthouse. Told her and my parents the whole story. My mother was particularly hurt. She had always treated Emma like a daughter, teaching her traditional recipes and including her in all our family traditions. Also hired Manhattan's top divorce attorney to start working on my case. I'm not rushing anything, want to do this right. Got plans to make her realize exactly what she's losing. I'll update when I'm back in New York or after I return to Singapore. Thanks for reading if you made it this far. Update 1. I need to address something quickly before getting into what happened. People always seem to sympathize with Wall Street wives. Poor thing has to live alone while her husband works such long hours. Or, what about her social life? And comments like that. Then they look at me like I'm the bad guy for not understanding her situation. Yeah, everything they say about it being hard is true, but nobody forced her to marry an investment banker. She lives in our $8 million penthouse that she could never afford on a yoga instructor's salary. She drives a new Tesla I bought her last Christmas, carries Birkin bags, and wears a Cartier watch worth more than her annual income. Every summer, we vacation at exclusive resorts in the Maldives or the French Riviera. She gets treatments at the most expensive med spas, goes to luxury yoga retreats, and never has to worry about bills. But funny how nobody mentions these perks when they're feeling sorry for her. Life in Asia. And let me tell you something, staying faithful isn't exactly easy for us either. I travel across the most luxurious cities in Asia, stay at top-tier hotels, and get invited to exclusive events everywhere I go. At every high-end club in Singapore or Hong Kong, there are gorgeous women who don't care if you're married. My colleagues joke that I could have a girlfriend in every financial hub if I wanted, but I always stayed loyal because that's what marriage means to me. Some of us still believe in commitment, but nobody gives us credit for that. They just assume all finance guys cheat during business trips. The new life. Now for what actually happened during my break in New York. I didn't go back to our penthouse. Couldn't stand the thought of being in the same space where she probably had her content creators over. My sister Sarah had found me a stunning apartment in a new luxury building in Tribeca with views of the Hudson River. The first few days, I stayed with her and her family in their Brooklyn Heights brownstone. Sarah was furious when she heard what Emma did. They used to be close friends, regularly appearing in each other's Instagram stories. I took my niece and nephew to the Natural History Museum and Central Park, something I'd been promising them forever. The kids kept asking where Aunt Emma was, and it broke my heart having to make up excuses. Then spent some time with my parents in their New Jersey home, where my mom made all my favorite Taiwanese dishes and reminded me that I deserved someone who respected our cultural values. Met up with old Stanford classmates who all said they never trusted Emma's social media persona anyway. Social consequences. I posted everything on LinkedIn and Instagram, not to be petty, but to show her I wasn't sitting around miserable without her. My breaks usually involve these high-profile finance industry galas, exclusive events at the Metropolitan Museum, and luxury hotels that Emma always loved attending. Not everyone gets invited to these things. It's mostly senior bankers and their spouses, hedge fund managers, important clients. These parties were crucial for her influencer status. She loved showing off her designer gowns and getting attention from New York's elite. I made sure to post plenty of photos, including ones with female colleagues who are actually successful in their own right: CEOs, fund managers, tech entrepreneurs. When people asked about Emma, I just told them the truth. She wanted an open marriage to boost her social media following while I was handling our Asia Pacific investments. The social fallout. Word spread fast in our circle, and suddenly all these Manhattan socialites who used to tag her in their stories started unfollowing her. At first, when she saw my family pictures online, she just texted asking where I was staying and why I wasn't at the penthouse. Then she switched to, "Okay, I'll give you space. I'll wait for you," like she was doing me a favor. But when she saw the gala pictures, she lost it. Started messaging me about how I abandoned her and asking if we didn't agree to be normal when I was in New York. Then she started drunk texting at 2 a.m. about how much she missed our lifestyle and how all these other guys meant nothing to her personal brand. I didn't respond to any of it. After months of silence, I finally replied, "I never agreed to that. You did what you wanted. Now I'm doing what I want." She sent back some nonsense about waiting for me to come back when I'm done being difficult, like I'm some influencer having a bad PR day. The reality check. 4 months into my New York stay, she reached out wanting to discuss rules for our open marriage, like we could sit down at St. Ambrose and make a schedule for when she gets to create content with other men. I shut that down quick. Do whatever you want with your social media. I'm not part of your content strategy anymore. My lawyer advised me to keep records of all these messages. They'd help with the divorce. Then she saw me living my best life, and suddenly emails saying, "Let's go back to normal." I'm done with this rebrand, like she could just update her profile and fix everything. She wrote this long email about how she made a mistake, how none of these other content creators made her feel the way I did, how she realized what she was losing. Said she'd do anything to save our marriage and our social status. I just sent back a laughing emoji and kept doing my thing. My mother, who hasn't spoken to Emma since this happened and removed all their cooking tutorial videos from social media, said it best. She didn't expect you to choose your dignity over her influence. The confrontation at Tribeca. Then one day, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. I have no idea who leaked my address. I only gave it to close family and a few trusted colleagues. Someone must have shared it with her, but honestly, I don't even want to know who it was at this point. I was heading out to my private gym session when I heard the knock. She looked completely different from when I left for Singapore. Lost weight, dyed her hair blonde, wearing this tight Balmain dress she would have never worn before. She looked nervous standing there, asking why I wasn't staying at our penthouse. I told her straight up that I had no intention of living with someone who didn't respect our marriage vows. "I thought we could figure this out," she said, like we were discussing a minor disagreement about interior designers. I just looked at her and said, "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." The breakdown. That's when she started crying, telling me how everyone in Manhattan's elite circles was giving her the cold shoulder. None of my colleagues' wives would collaborate with her anymore. These were women who used to feature in her daily stories. They'd go to Soul Cycle together, have champagne brunches, plan charity galas. Now they wanted nothing to do with her. All those exclusive events she loved. Nobody was inviting her anymore. Turns out being known as the wife who opened her marriage while her husband was managing Asia Pacific investments isn't great for your social status. "What do you want then?" she asked through her tears, mascara running down her face. I just said, "You'll find out soon enough." She got this panicked look and asked, "You met someone in Singapore, right? Is she a CEO? A banker? Are you with her?" I couldn't help but laugh. She was the one who wanted to see other people, but now she was jealous at the thought of me with someone successful. She kept begging for answers, but I'd had enough. I just gestured to the security guard and said, "Escort her out." She left saying I'd regret betraying her trust. The irony of that statement coming from her Instagram verified lips. The legal proceedings. My lawyer already had the divorce papers ready. I was planning to have her served once I was back in Singapore, so she couldn't come crying to my Tribeca apartment again. She wanted to open things up. Fine. I was about to open up divorce proceedings. The day I left for Singapore, my attorney had her served at her favorite brunch spot in Soho. She called me in a panic, screaming about how I betrayed her and left her broken, like she was the victim in all this. Then she called my lawyer, saying she would fight the divorce till the end. She wouldn't let me go, like she had any choice in the matter. Family intervention. She tried playing the victim card with my parents too, called them crying about how I blindsided her, how she never saw this coming. That backfired spectacularly. They already knew everything and told her exactly what they thought of her behavior. My mother blocked her number and removed her from our family's WeChat group right after. Then her mom called me. Turns out Emma had been telling everyone that we both agreed to open the marriage. She'd convinced her whole family that this was some mutual decision we made to spice up our social media presence. Her mom said they thought it was weird, but figured it was just another Manhattan trend. I shut that down real quick. No way. I already told your other daughter the truth months ago. I was never on board with this influencer fantasy of hers. Her mom started going on about how Emma's mental health was suffering because everyone had cut her off. All these exclusive events she used to love attending, nobody invites her anymore. The other bankers' wives won't even acknowledge her at Equinox. Her mom actually expected me to feel bad about this. I just said, "Why would my colleagues keep inviting her when she's not even my wife anymore?" "Is there any chance you could work things out?" her mom asked. I laughed and said, "Not in this lifetime. I can't be married to someone who traded our vows for social media engagement." The final days. Now my phone's blowing up with texts and voicemails from Emma. She's begging, pleading, promising to delete her social media accounts, saying she'll do anything to fix this. I haven't blocked her yet. My lawyer wants to keep all communication records for the divorce proceedings. Maybe that's petty, but I want her to see exactly what she threw away. I'll block her eventually, but for now, I'm letting her see my success in Asia through my LinkedIn updates. Current update. I'm having another break in New York. Divorce proceedings are ongoing, and Emma has been pushing back hard against it, not because she wants to fix things, but because her perfect little influencer life is falling apart. The thing is, she's completely broke. Now that shiny new world of freedom she wanted so badly, turns out it wasn't as glamorous as she thought. All those guys she was creating content with, they just wanted to be featured on a Wall Street wife's Instagram. None of them stuck around once she lost access to our lifestyle. She actually broke down crying in front of the judge, admitted opening the marriage was a mistake. Now she wants everything to go back to how it was, like she can just archive all her posts from the past year and restart. After I cut off her access to our joint accounts, she burned through her savings trying to maintain her influencer lifestyle. Within a year, She'd blown through everything. Her yoga instructor salary barely covers a studio apartment in Queens now, let alone the designer clothes she got used to. That's the thing about living the Manhattan high life. Once you get used to it, there's no going back. When she first opened up the marriage, and I pulled my financial support, she thought it was just temporary. She figured she could coast on her savings until I came around and started funding her lifestyle again. That was her brilliant plan. Play faithful wife during my New York breaks, then go wild with her content creation when I was in Asia. Well, that plan blew up in her perfectly contoured face. The final resolution. She begs for another chance at every court hearing, keeps asking to start fresh, she says. Easy for her to say she's not the one who had to deal with the humiliation and trauma. You know what really gets me? She deliberately dropped this open marriage thing right when I started my Asia assignment, giving herself months to create content before I got back to New York. Those first months in Singapore were brutal. You're there in your luxury hotel suite with nothing but the city lights for company, no distractions, just staring at the skyline and thinking about what's happening back home. Sometimes the dark thoughts get really bad. I can't even describe how hard it was to maintain my focus during major client meetings. Present day. Anyway, divorce is almost done. Just one more court date. Asset division is settled. And it's fair, even though she's not happy about it. I'm selling the penthouse. Can't stand to keep a place where she destroyed our marriage for social media clout. She can't buy me out anyway, since she can't even afford her gym membership anymore. Fine by me. I don't want to hold on to anything from that life. I actually love my new life. I'm doing better than ever. Met new people. Got a solid routine going. Feel free to build my career without worrying about someone's Instagram metrics. I'm not bitter about what happened. Honestly grateful that I didn't let her choices mess up my future. Not looking to date right now, but I'm open to meeting someone who values commitment over follower count. Epilogue. I've blocked Emma on all professional and social media platforms, but she keeps making new accounts to check my updates. I spot them easily. She still uses variations of her old influencer handle. I let her look. Let her see exactly what she gave up. Her Instagram used to be nothing but luxury hotel stays, rooftop parties, and designer shopping hauls. Now it's just reposted quotes about regret and second chances. Guess that's what happens when you trade a real marriage for social media engagement. 1 month later, back in Singapore now, closing another major deal. You know what's funny? The whole time she was complaining about my business trips, she never once asked about the pressure I was under, managing billions in investments. She was too busy counting likes to notice I was building something real. Her last message said, "I miss our life together." I didn't respond. She doesn't miss our life. She misses the lifestyle. There's a difference.